morning and welcome to the Pickle Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show. It's NFL Week 8 and we are ready for some football. I'm your host, Henry the Commish Brick, and alongside me is 20-year fantasy football veteran, the Professor Steve Wynn.
What a jam-packed show we have in store today. We will cover injuries around the NFL, our Week 8 picks, our studs, duds, and sleepers, and a little contest for our listeners called Beat the Commish.
Oh, yeah.
You can call now, 609-573-3776 at 609-573-ESPN. Let's get things started. Commish, how'd you do last week in the Beat the Commish game?
Last week, I came in third. The week before, I came in second. Unbelievable.
You are making it challenging for the players of the game, and we'll have a little segment on FPX.com later in the show.
Professor, how's it going for you?
Well, I had a big loss in my big money league, and it was to you, which is very disappointing. My team not only lost the game, they put up their worst game of the season, a sub-100 game. Totally disappointing. But I'm over it. I'm past it. Yeah, I know. That's your first regular season win over me. I'm really upset about it.
I know, that's true. You swept me last year. That's right.
Next week, we reach the NFL halfway point. I will have articles on the site about getting your team fine-tuned for the playoffs. We will be reviewing what we've learned so far this year, and as I do every year, I will be giving myself the mid-season report card on the draft. Loads of waiver advice. We have the trade article from the commish. We've got our upgrades and downgrades from Vincent. All kinds of great stuff out on kickassfantasyfootball.com.
Great stuff, Professor. Before we get into the injury report, let's talk weather. Got a big storm hitting the East Coast today. Do you think it affects some teams that are playing the East Coast?
Well, the Dolphins-Jets game was going to be a disaster of football proportions, but it's apparently going to be a natural disaster, so don't expect a lot of passing out of this game. Don't expect a lot of passes to Reggie Bush either. Frankly, I'd avoid the whole lot of them, but it is bye-week hell, so get your runners in, temper your expectations for receivers.
Yeah, I mean, how about the Eagles-Falcons game? That's a 1 o'clock game, and wind is supposed to be picking up pretty good.
Yeah, they're going to have to tie down some players on the positive side. With all the wet field and everything, you have to think that those Eagles backs and Michael Vick are a little bit more elusive this week. So look for something interesting. Look for Andy Reid to keep it on the ground for the first time in who knows how long.
Yep. Hey, how about 9 1 o'clock games today, 2 4 o'clock games? A lot of football to be played early.
Yeah, it's a rough week weather-wise. It's a good week for football, though. If you got the red zone, watch them all.
Love that. Kick back, get some wings from the Pickle Inn, some ice cold beer, and you're all set. All right, let's get right into that injury report. I got the Bears quarterback Jay Cutler. Did practice Friday, is expected to start, even though he has the rib issue, is questionable.
Okay, Blaine Gabbert practiced Friday. He's expected to start, but he's not starting for you, so don't worry about it.
Titans starting quarterback Jake Locker is still out with the shoulder injury. Look for Matt Hasselbeck to continue to carry the load.
Trent Richardson saw light work again Friday. He is a dreaded game-time decision. Montario Hardesty's the backup. He's got his own minor knee issue. Number 3, Chris Obanaya, is expected to play, but he's got a chest injury. Normally, this is where Matt makes his joke about getting the call to play, but we have him tied to a light post on the boardwalk covering the storm. So we will be getting posts from him and texts as the show goes on.
Colts starting running back Donald Brown split first-team reps with Vic Ballard Friday, so look for both of them to carry the load for the Colts. Boy, it's sad if you got to start either one of them.
It's just a mash unit for the running backs in the league this year. DeMarco Murray is out. Felix Jones saw light work in practice. He's expected to start. Philip Tanner's the number 3 out there. It's getting bare bones for Dallas.
Ahmad Bradshaw, running back for the New York Football Giants, has that bruised foot. He is questionable. Did see light work during the week. His final status will be determined in pre-game warm-ups. Make sure you're checking that injury report up until game time.
Okay, enough of all these game-time decisions and coulda, woulda, shouldas. Maurice Jones-Drew is out. Rashard Jennings will start for him. He's a great play today.
All right, we got Steelers starting running back Rashard Mendenhall is out with an Achilles injury. Isaac Redmond questionable. Did see some light work Friday. His final status will be decided in the pregame warm-ups. Look for Jonathan Dwyer to get the start if Redmond cannot go.
Nate Burleson out. He is on the IR. Titus Young has been disappointing all year. but he's going to start across from Megatron today. Calvin Johnson was out of Friday's practice. He's expected to start. Lions really disappointing in the passing game this year.
Greg Jennings continues to be out. Jordy Nelson strains a hamstring Wednesday in practice. Look for Randall Cobb and James Jones to carry the load today for the Packers against the Jags.
Aaron Hernandez is out for the Patriots. Look for Welker and the running backs to pick up the slack. Not any tight ends, except for Gronkowski getting his usual production.
People have been holding on to Gasarn. You have to keep holding and holding and holding. The guy continues to be out with this nagging foot injury. Leonard Hankerson expected to start again from this week.
Redskins tight end Fred Davis also put on the IR this week. It is a mess out there. Backup tight ends Logan Paulson and Niles Paul are the short-term guys to see playing time. They have also brought back Chris Cooley.
Starting tight end for the Saints, Jimmy Graham, is questionable. Did see some light work Friday. His final status will be determined pre-game warm-ups. The good news is that he did get some practice in, but David Thomas will start again if Graham can't go. All right, that's our injury report. When we come back, we're going to open up the phone lines at 609-573-3776. We also get into our Dude, I'm Sorry segment. You're listening to the Pickleillian Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show.
For a buffalo wing, the Piccalilli. When it comes to cooking wings, we're the king, the Piccalilli. Pull up a chair, grab a table, enjoy the atmosphere. Have something good to eat or have yourself a round of cheer. If you can't stop in, stop back. Great food, great drinks where everybody is a friend. If you can't stop in, stop back. The Piccalillian.
It isn't fall without the famous Piccalilli Inn. Catch all of your favorite football action at the Piccalilli Inn. Check out the Pick's brand new menu featuring homemade buffalo chicken egg rolls, buffalo shrimp, scallops, and the tender Pick burger. They go great with one of the Pick's ice-cold on-tap beers. Catch every football game at the Pick. Enjoy an awesome meal while you watch your favorite team. The Piccalilli Inn, a Jersey tradition since the 1920s. On Route 206 in Chemong. If you can't stop in, stop back.
The Piccalilli Inn.
Fantasy football owners, it's draft time, and kickassfantasyfootball.com makes it easy.
How do we make it easy?
Projections from the experts, cheat sheets with your scoring rules.
What else?
Articles all season long, waiver wire picks, trade advice, everything you need to win a championship.
How about a free judgment from fantasyjudgment.com, a $15 value?
Now we're talking.
Subscribe today for just $9.95 and we'll throw in a complimentary cruise for two to the Bahamas.
Cruise to a championship with kickassfantasyfootball.com.
Don't let your fantasy issues become a reality. Fantasy Judgment is the premier dispute resolution service for all fantasy sports leagues. Led by attorney Michael Stein, the Supreme Court of Fantasy Judgment will resolve any and all issues or conflicts that arise in fantasy leagues. This includes disputed trades, collusion, abuse of power by league commissioners, lineup and roster errors, draft issues, score discrepancies, and interpretation of league rules. We alleviate the burden for league commissioners and allow everyone to focus on winning their leagues rather than arguing over disputes. Visit www.fantasyjudgment.com.
Fantasy Football, the Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show. Every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. here on 97.3 ESPN. Join the Professor, the Commish, and Fantasy Insider Matt Lowry for the Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show. Got a question? Call us. Who should you start? Who should you trade? Who's great? And who just plain sucks? The Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show. On the web at kickassfantasyfootball.com. Yeah, kickassfantasyfootball.com. And every Sunday at 9 a.m.
I felt that one way up here.
Right here on 97.3 ESPN.
Welcome back to the Pickleillian Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show. Our phone lines are open if you need help with any last-minute lineup questions. The number is 609-573-ESPN. That's 609-573-3776.
Now, you guys, I know that in the local area that we cover down here near Atlantic City, South Jersey is under an evacuation watch. A hurricane is no excuse for you to lose your game. Give us a call if you have a lineup question. We're here for you. We are putting ourselves on the line. Heck, we've got Matt tied to a light post up on the Ventnor Boardwalk, monitoring the storm's progress. So far, he says it's windy, is his report. So now it is time for my least favorite segment on the show. Matt's not here, so I get to say that it is Dude, I'm Sorry. Commish, who are you sorry for?
I'm sorry for telling our listeners to not only spend the money and pick up Felix Jones, but for telling our listeners what a great start he was going to be with DeMarco Murray out last week. With nothing but backup performance last week, all I can say is, dude, I'm sorry. Scott. Nice.
It's Halloween week, in case you forgot with all the hurricane prep, folks. Dominic Hickson, for me, came up small, but he was a reach of the week, so we don't expect a whole lot out of him. However, Tony Romo was supposed to have his way with the Carolina D. He only managed to put up the 16th best quarterback score of the week. That is not good enough for a fantasy start, and for that, dude, I'm sorry.
You should be sorry for that, Professor.
I should have picked it. We both picked Cowboys.
We did.
That's both of our dude. I'm sorry.
Shame on us. Shame on us. What were we thinking? All right, well, who you the man about there, Professor?
Well, I had a good week last week. My stud was a dud. Or my stud was a stud. My dud was a dud. My picks were fantasy starters, but except for Tony Romo. But I'm going to the phone lines for my best play of the week. First, I gave Vinny from Philly Josh Gordon over James Jones, which was a 6-point swing. Then I advised Jim to put Randall Cobb in his flex spot over Kyle Rudolph or Alex Green. That was a 16-point improvement for Jim, 24 points in PPR. I hope he got his W, and I am the man.
Great stuff. I was all over Drew Brees, stating he could throw 400 yards and 5 touchdowns last week. Well, I was a little off. He threw for 377 and 4 touchdowns. Oh, and by the way, I also said Lance Moore was a great start. He ends up with a career-high game, 9 catches for $121. Yes, I'm the man.
It's
is that Matt Lowry or fantasy insider Matt Lowry? It sounds like it. He's covered the story.
Like that zombie, you got brains last week there, Kamish. You also had Chris Johnson as a reach. He had a near 200-yard day. You were on.
Yeah, great stuff. And you can check out all our projections right on our website at kickassfantasyfootball.com. You know what, Professor? It's time now to get into our Pickles picks of the week.
Okay, well, I am going to start right off at the top. Peyton Manning, my stud of the week this week on the picks list. He is playing against his adopted hometown of New Orleans, where his dad played. The Saints D stinks, folks. They have been allowing everybody to have their way with them. The Saints can put up points, too, so look for a shootout. Look for Peyton Manning to rack them up.
I got Mike Vick versus Atlanta today. Reed is 13-0 off a bye week. They are home, and it's his former team. I'm loving Vick to light it up today.
That's a tough one. You've got the immovable object of Andy Reid 3-0 and the Atlanta Falcons, who just look fantastic this season. So that's going to be a great game. Make sure you're in your chairs watching that one. I got Ben Roethlisberger. He gets a tomato can defense to beat up on. The Steelers face the Redskins this week. The game is in Pittsburgh, and I foresee bad things for the Skins fans.
Got Andrew Luck. He goes up against Tennessee today. It's a great matchup for Luck, as the Tennessee secondary gives up the 7th most fantasy points to the quarterback.
Okay, Jay Cutler, if he plays, has the great Bears D to rely on, so he rarely gets into shootouts. But the Carolina D, as I mentioned last week with Tony Romo, they laid down for teams. So this is a good week to put Jay Cutler into your lineup if you have bye week issues.
Yeah, talking about bye week issues, how about Sam Bradford versus the Pats today? It's in London, and New England gives up an average of 335 yards each game passing the last 5 weeks, and about 3 touchdowns. I love Sam Bradford as a plug-in today on a bye week.
I think these teams picked the right week to get the hell out of the country with this
the storm.
Storm rolling up the East Coast. Well, in the tight ends, I gave Kyle Rudolph some time off, 2 weeks, and I can't pick him this week because he stinks when I don't pick him. So maybe I was his lucky charm. Vernon Davis, however, gets a turn this week. Get VD into your lineup against the Cards.
Nice, VD. Heath Miller goes up against Washington. Miller faces a defense in Washington who give up the 3rd most fantasy points to the tight end. He's hot right now. Keep him in your lineup. He'll score big time today.
Well, Martellus Bennett gets a rematch against his old team, the Cowboys. He had a fantastic week 1 against them. How can you not play Martellus Bennett this week against the boys?
Love that. It's his former team. You should do great. Love that pick. Dustin Keller goes up against Miami. Keller caught 7 passes last week with no one for Sanchez to really throw the ball to. Keller will continue to be his stud receiver.
Okay, the Patriots have been the whipping D for tight ends, but Lance Kendrick doesn't get to use much for in the pass-catching game, so I'm going to give you a different Ram. Greg the Leg Zuerlein will likely have a lot of chances as the Rams continue to sputter in the red zone.
Yeah, he's going to continue to just break records as a rookie kicker. Not a bad choice there. Love that. How about Jacob Tam against the Saints? Listen, whoever's going up against the Saints, start them. Their defense absolutely stinks. It's time for you to cash in big time with Tam this week. All right, listen, when we come back, we're going to open back up the phone lines at 609-573-3776. Call us with any last-minute lineup help you may have. We'll also finish up the Piccolo's Picks of the Week. You're listening to the Piccoloian Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show.
Fantasy Football, the Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show. Every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. here on 97.3 ESPN. Join the Professor, the Commish, and Fantasy Insider Matt Lowry for the Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show. Got a question? Call us. Who should you start? Who should you trade? Who's great? And who just plain sucks? The Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show. On the web at kickassfantasyfootball.com. Yeah, kickassfantasyfootball.com. And every Sunday at 9 a.m.
I felt that one way up here.
Right here on 97.3 ESPN.
Now is your chance to experience the new game that's transforming fantasy sports. Fantasy Player Exchange is a new daily game that allows you to compete against friends and fantasy foes for cash prizes. With FPX, you can select 5 players from any active sport. Sign up now at fantasyplayerexchange.com for your chance to beat ESPN Radio's Henry the Commish Brick and win $1,000 cash. Go to fantasyplayerexchange.com to sign up and play today. Remember, that's fantasyplayerexchange.com.
Fantasy football owners, it's draft time, and kickassfantasyfootball.com makes it easy.
How do we make it easy?
Projections from the experts, cheat sheets with your scoring rules.
What else?
Articles all season long, waiver wire picks, trade advice, everything you need to win a championship.
How about a free judgment from fantasyjudgment.com, a $15 value?
Now we're talking.
Subscribe today for just $9.95 and we'll throw in a complimentary cruise for 2 to the Bahamas.
Cruise to a championship with kickassfantasyfootball.com.
We're famous for our buffalo wings. The Piccadilly. When it comes to cooking wings, we're the king. The Piccadilly. Pull up a chair, grab a table, enjoy the atmosphere. Have something good to eat or have yourself around here. If you can't stop in, stop back. Great food, great drinks where everybody is a friend. If you can't stop in, stop back. The Piccadilly.
It isn't fall without the famous Piccadilly Inn. Catch all of your favorite football action at the Piccadilly Inn. Check out the Pick's brand new menu featuring homemade buffalo chicken egg rolls, buffalo shrimp, scallops, and the tender Pick Burger. They go great with one of the Pick's ice-cold on-tap beers. Catch every football game at the Pick. Enjoy an awesome meal while you watch your favorite team. The Piccadilly Inn, a Jersey tradition since the 1920s. On Route 206 in Chemong. If you can't stop in, stop back.
The Piccadilly Inn.
Welcome back to the Piccadilly Inn Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show. I want to remind you the phone lines are open. If you have any last-minute lineup questions, the number is 609-573-3776. You can go to kickassfantasyfootball.com to help get your lineup set. But you got to remember, folks, it is raining out there. A wet piece of paper with your cheat sheet on it is no excuse. Listen to us. Get your lineup in. It'll take you 30 seconds. Then you can finish tying your kids to the roof of your car for the trip west to get away from this storm.
Nice. All right, let's get right into our wide receivers. Piccolo's Picks of the Week. Professor, who do you have at wide receiver?
Well, today's theme is pick on the Redskins, so you must play Mike Wallace. And, hey, you know what? If you can get Antonio Brown into your lineup, too, do it while you're there.
All right, I got Randall Cobb versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. With Nelson pulling a hammy Wednesday in practice, Cobb should be the number one target, plus Jacksonville's defense stinks.
Well, Marquez Colston will have coverage from Champ Bailey all day today, so the other guy is the guy that I'm picking as the performer for the Saints. Get Lance Moore into your lineups. Hey, Devery Henderson's actually not a bad reach or flex, too.
How about Macklin versus Atlanta today? He will be up against Dante Robinson. Should do very well. Looking forward to watching this on TV.
And finishing out with a much deeper play, I think Jeremy Curley is a good play against the Dolphins D if the Jets get this game off without getting soaked. So get Curley in there if you need some help with your wide receivers.
And Nate Washington goes up against the Colts. Great matchup for him as Britt will continue to draw the double team, giving him great scoring opportunities. All right, before we get into the running backs, we're going to go to our phone lines, Professor. We got Joe from Little Egg Harbor. Joe, welcome to the show. What's your question?
I got a flex position I need to fill, and I've got Malcolm Floyd and I've got Stephen Ridley in a PPR league. Who would you go with?
If I got a choice between those guys, I think I'm going with Ridley this week. I do like the focus on the running game with Hernandez out. I think they'll use him a little bit more. You might see one of those weeks like you did where both he and Brandon Bolden had 100-yard games a few weeks ago. So I think he's a lock to get 100. Commish?
Yeah, I agree. I think Floyd's going to see a lot of Joe Hayden in this game, so Ridley's definitely going to be your brighter spot today. I think he gets a few more fantasy points for you.
Even in that sloppy field over in London, huh?
Yeah, even the sloppy field over in London. I do like him. A lot. Hey, Joe, would you like a Sunday Fun Day shirt?
I'm just fine. Thanks, fellas.
All right, man. Thanks for calling.
Thanks for the call, Joe.
All right, let's get right into our running backs. Pick all these picks of the week. Professor, why don't you start us off?
Okay, well, we got Jamal Charles. He's back from a bye. He's rested up, and he gets the Raiders' defense. That's got to feel pretty nice, right? Okay, get Jamal Charles in your lineup.
I'm just a little afraid of Brady Quinn in this one. I'm afraid of 8 in the box, and because they're not going to give Quinn any respect. But you know what? It's a great matchup. You got to start him.
With Brady Quinn, you might be seeing 11 in the box. So he's not scaring anybody.
Yeah, very scary. I got Willis McGahee up against the Saints, who give up the second most fantasy points to running backs over the last 5 weeks. If you got him, start him.
Okay, Matt Forte is healthy. I'm not recommending Michael Bush because of any injury to Forte. I'm recommending him because if you need a good bye-week flex, expect a good amount of Bush in the Bears game against the Panthers.
Gotta like Bush. Who doesn't? Okay, Darren McFadden versus the Chiefs. What can I say? He is due. The Chiefs give up the 4th most points to fantasy points to running backs. Did I mention he's due?
Well, you know what, Commish, since you like Bush so much, I'm going to give you Reggie Bush this week. The Jets defense has no way of stopping Bush. He's a versatile back. Expect lots of creative ways for the Dolphins to get Bush in action.
How about Chris Johnson? He has gone from reach to a must-start in 3 weeks on this show. He plays the Colts who give the 5th most fantasy points to running backs over the past 5 weeks. I can't believe it. Chris Johnson, start him.
Yeah, he's a late bloomer. This is 2 seasons in a row that he's waited until everybody gave up and they said, hey, you know what, I'm going to play.
Unbelievable.
Hey, we got one more set of Piccalilli picks to go through. It is Everett, this week's starting bartender for the Piccalilli team, joins us on the line. Welcome back, Everett. You are on fire on your picks in recent weeks. How'd your fantasy team do last week?
Hey, what's going on, guys? My fantasy teams did all right. I had a really close loss that due to bye weeks. I had, I believe, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 players out on the bye on 1 week. That was bad drafting, I guess, on my part. But other than that, I had a huge win in my Yahoo League. I'm up. I think I'm in 3rd place because I got a tie to overcome. Somebody tied, and I have to overcome that.
Okay. Well, Everett, we wait for your picks every week. We enjoy getting the info from you. We enjoy sending our listeners over to you. Who is your quarterback for Week 8 this week?
My pick for quarterback is one Mr. Peyton Manning, not Eli, after that game against my Redskins last week. So Peyton Manning, I feel, against New Orleans defense. We all know the New Orleans defense can't really stop too much.
Love that.
Love it. Peyton is back into his old mold.
Yeah, I agree. I think he is is back to being a top 5 guy, at least in recent weeks. I absolutely love that pick. How about running back?
Running back, I'm projecting a back-to-back big weeks by Frank Gore. He's now going. Last week he played Seattle, had a huge week after people doubted him. They thought he wasn't going to produce, and this week he has to play Arizona, which, again, beginning of the season, looked like a tough matchup. In recent weeks, looked like it's going to be a walk in the park.
Yeah, I don't know what happened to Seattle and Arizona's defenses, but they looked unstoppable early in the season, and now they're looking very beatable. I do like that play, and this was a week that I thought Frank Gore might not produce, so with the way Arizona's playing, I think you are spot on. And how about wide receiver?
Wide receiver, I'm looking for a little Jeremy Maclin action. I think after he had his first big game of the season on week 6.
Great
then they
minds
had the
think
bye.
alike.
We all know how talented Andy Reid is, and the Eagles are off the bye. So I think there's going to be a lot of action in the Atlanta Eagles game today.
Great stuff.
Okay, now, the Piccalilli Inn's a little inland. It's probably a safe place to be this afternoon. You guys are open, right, Everett?
Oh, we are open all the time. Even during this storm, we are planning on being open. This thing is, this shouldn't stop us. We have a generator. We're ready to go in case power goes out. Right now, I'm just trying to stay wet or dry at the current moment.
Well, there you go, folks. You got a dry place to watch your games. The generator will be on, keeping that beer cold. What are the specials this week over at the Pick?
Well, for all those people that want to stay home, you can come out, grab your stuff, and head on back. We have a great takeout special. It's 10, 10, and 10. That's 10 wings, 10 ears, and 10 tails. That's all for $25.
Wow,
that is very strong. You know what, folks? If you're planning on being shut in on Monday and Tuesday, you get 3 of those 10, 10, 10s, and you're set for the entire storm. You come out on Wednesday, fat, dumb, and happy. So,
love it.
So that's a good thing.
Don't forget the scalps.
Okay, I just want to remember our listeners all over the tri-state area. It is worth it to go to the Piccalilli Inn on Route 206 in Chemung. They are well away from any flooding. The wings are world class. Everett will be at the bar with a cold beer in his hand and some fantasy advice for you. You get the college games, you get the baseball playoffs, you get the whole show. Take a ride to the Pick. Treat yourself to a great time. Everett, always fun having you on the show. Thank you very much for being with us.
No problem, guys. Thanks a lot.
All right, man.
All right.
Great stuff. Hey, before we go to a break, we're going to go back to our phone lines. We got Daniel who's been holding from Cape May. Daniel, welcome to the show. What's your question?
Yeah, I had a question about a wide receiver 1 position. I had Jordy Nelson in there. I was able to pick up Randall Cobb, and I was wondering if you would start over Jordy Nelson, Donnie Avery, or Santana Moss.
Wow. That's tough. Even Jordy Nelson at half speed is probably a better pick than either of those guys. What you got to do is, you got to look at the game time decisions. As long as he's not out, I would play Jordy Nelson.
Okay.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, of the two, if you pin me to a wall, I'd probably go Santana Moss here, only because even though he hasn't had very many snaps, he has been targeted in the end zone for RG3, and they will probably have to throw it up a lot today. So, if you had to go one way or the other, if Jordy does not go, I'd probably go Moss.
All right. Well, thank you guys for your advice.
All right, man. Be
Stay
safe,
dry,
everybody.
Daniel.
All right. All right, when we come back, we're going to keep the phone lines open at 609-573-3776. Call us if you have any last-minute lineup help. We will also get into some of our reaches of the weeks. We also have our studs, duds, and sleepers. You're listening to the Piccalilli and Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show.
Don't let your fantasy issues become a reality. Fantasy Judgment is the premier dispute resolution service for all fantasy sports leagues. Led by attorney Michael Stein, the Supreme Court of Fantasy Judgment will resolve any and all issues or conflicts that arise in fantasy leagues. This includes disputed trades, collusion, abuse of power by league commissioners, lineup and roster errors, draft issues, score discrepancies, and interpretation of league rules. We alleviate the burden for league commissioners and allow everyone to focus on winning their leagues rather than arguing over disputes. Visit www.fantasyjudgment.com.
Fantasy Football, the Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show. Every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. here on 97.3 ESPN. Join the Professor, the Commish, and Fantasy Insider Matt Lowry for the Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show. Got a question? Call us. Who should you start? Who should you trade? Who's great? And who just plain sucks? The Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show. On the web at kickassfantasyfootball.com. Yeah, kickassfantasyfootball.com. And every Sunday at 9 a.m.
I felt that one way up here.
Right here on 97.3 ESPN.
We're famous for our buffalo wings. The Piccalilli. When it comes to cooking wings, we're the king. The Piccalilli. Pull up a chair, grab a table, enjoy the atmosphere. Have something good to eat or have yourself around here. If you can't stop in, stop back. Food, great drinks where everybody is a friend. You can't stop being stop back. The Piccadilly.
It isn't fall without the famous Piccadilly Inn. Catch all of your favorite football action at the Piccadilly Inn. Check out the Pick's brand new menu featuring homemade buffalo chicken egg rolls, buffalo shrimp, scallops, and the tender Pick Burger. They go great with one of the Pick's ice-cold on-tap beers. Catch every football game at the Pick. Enjoy an awesome meal while you watch your favorite team. The Piccadilly Inn, a Jersey tradition since the 1920s. On Route 206 in Chemung. If you can't stop in, stop back.
The Piccadilly Inn.
Fantasy football owners, it's draft time, and kickassfantasyfootball.com makes it easy.
How do we make it easy?
Projections from the experts, cheat sheets with your scoring rules.
What else?
Articles all season long, waiver wire picks, trade advice, everything you need to win a championship.
How about a free judgment from fantasyjudgment.com, a $15 value?
Now we're talking.
Subscribe today for just $9.95 and we'll throw in a complimentary cruise for 2 to the Bahamas.
Cruise to a championship with kickassfantasyfootball.com. Okay, welcome back to the Piccadilly Inn Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show. I want to remind you the Piccadilly Inn also has a bonfire every Thursday night. With this hurricane, they're probably going to have plenty to throw on. So I want to open up the phone lines. If you need any help from our experts with any last-minute lineup questions, you can call me, you can call the commish. We're both here at 609-573-3776. We will help you get your lineup in order so you can get the hell out of South Jersey. You can also go to kickassfantasyfootball.com to get your lineup set and ready.
Professor, before we get into our Reaches of the Week, which is brought to you by fantasyplayerexchange.com, play daily multi-sport fantasies against your friends for as little as $2 by picking 5 players of any sport and compete for cash at fantasyplayerexchange.com. This week, again, if you sign up now and open up an account, they're going to put $10 into your account for free. So basically, you sign up, you get $10 in your account free, and if you beat me by the biggest margin in the Beat the Commish game, you get $50. And so far, I haven't come in first, so it's a no-brainer.
There's been a $50 winner every week. There will be a $1,000 winner at the end of the season. So get out there to fpx.com, fantasyplayerexchange.com, and get your picks in there. But if you are playing that game, don't pick any players from these teams. These are the teams on a bye this week. I'm going to start with Buffalo. Fantasy impacts, Commish?
Fantasy impacts for Buffalo. You don't have, obviously, Fitzpatrick's not playing today. Spiller, Jackson are out, the running back duo. And then wide receiver and tight end, you got Stevie Johnson not playing and Scott Chandler.
Okay, well, Baltimore, one of my favorite teams in the NFL, not playing today. Their defense is torn apart, so Joe Flacco is hopefully going to start producing a little bit more. Flacco, Smith, Bolden, and Pitta are out. Ray Rice is the big one that you're trying to cover this week. Make sure you get a high upside running back into your game. How about the Bengals, Commish?
Bengals lose, of course. There's no Dalton today at quarterback. The law firm will not be running the ball for you. And the big name, of course, A.J. Green, and tight end Jermaine Gresham will not be playing. Make sure you get them out of your lineup.
And finally, the Texans are off this week. That's right. Arian Foster out. Ray Rice out. Matt Schaub out, but I don't think people are that upset about Schaub or Daniels being out. Don't forget to take Andre Johnson out of your lineups either, but this is a huge week. There's been, top 5 running backs are out, a couple of top 5 receivers, so you need your help, and we are here to give it to you. So let's get into our Reaches of the Week. Commish, who you got? Who do you have as Reach of the Week this week?
Reach of the Week, I'm going to go with Philip Tanner versus the Giants this week. Felix Jones is not 100%. Tanner actually played on more downs last week than him. Tanner faces the New York Football Giants this week, who can be run on. I like him here in a bye-week reach if you need him.
Okay, well, I'm going with Ronnie Hillman of the Denver Broncos. The Broncos are not 100% sold on Willis McGahee. They want to take a little look and get a road test on Ronnie Hillman. I think the Saints D looks a little bit like a preseason D lately, so this might be a game where they give Hillman the rock. They let him have the keys to the offense, see what he can do. If you need some help to cover for Rice or Foster being out, I think that Hillman might be an interesting high upside play.
All right, before we get into more Reaches of the Week, we're going to go to our phone lines. Professor, we got Eric from EHT. Eric, welcome to the show. What's your question?
Appreciate it, guys. I love you. Love your show.
Thank you.
I got a little drama in my running back situation. I was lucky to have Doug Martin, who helped me out a lot.
Nice.
But now, Yeah, but now I'm down to you might have answered my question. I have Philip Tanner, Daryl Richardson, and Darren Sproles.
Wow, Sproles.
Okay, so you need one or two.
No, and I also have Howling, LaRod Stevens Howling.
Oh, okay.
So you need one or two of those, Eric.
I just need one.
Just
because I already played Doug Martin.
Okay. I'd say that of those guys, I like Daryl Richardson this week. Tanner is a high upside reach, as the commish said, but Richardson is in that 50-50 split. I think he's guaranteed to get you some production.
Yeah, I mean, guess what? Richardson is not a bad play here. I do like him a little bit over Tanner. He's got a decent matchup, and he's definitely more explosive and definitely the future of the Rams. And I think today will pick up some more fantasy points for you against New England. That defense, very soft.
All right, cool. I appreciate that. And another quick question: is there any word on Graham starting for the Saints, tight end?
Yeah, he is injured. You want to check up until right up until kickoff on that injury report to make sure he's going. We mentioned it earlier in the show. He is he's very questionable with that ankle, and Thomas may end up going for him again.
Yeah, if you need to make the call now, I would assume that he is out. But if you can wait until game time, that would be the best play.
You know, a late name out there that might be a sleeper no one's thinking about, because pretty much everybody, all the big names are gone. But Finley is on the board.
You know, Finley's interesting. He is healthy now. Brandon Myers would be a guy that's on the waiver wire probably, although he had a couple good weeks early in the season, might not be there. He is the Raiders tight end. And
I like Tam or Dreesen if either one of them are out there.
Yeah, Tam's probably on a roster. Dreesen's probably not. And you could even take a look at the Redskins tight ends, the two rookies and or the two fill-ins for Fred Davis.
Right. All right. I appreciate it.
All right, mate. Good luck today, Bill. Thanks. All right, now let's go back to the phone lines. We got Tom from Millville. Tom, welcome to the show. What's your question?
How you guys doing today?
Great.
I'm thinking either. What do you think about Matt Ryan against Philly or Andrew Luck against Tennessee?
You know what? I like both of them this week, but I really like Andrew Luck a lot this week. There's not going to be too many weeks where I would take anybody over Matt Ryan. But I think Andrew Luck's a fantastic play. It's a great matchup. They are at home. So, no, I'm sorry. They are at Tennessee. They are on the road. So, you've got to temper things a little there. He hasn't played as well on the road. But, the Eagles' cornerbacks are very good. So Ryan has got a little bit to overcome. And, let's not discount the weather factor. It's going to be extremely windy.
About that, the hurricane,
Yeah, exactly. You're going to have high winds there. So you might only have 2 quarters of which Ryan's going to be able to throw the ball effectively, and Philly is kind of tough against the pass there. So I do like Luck myself.
Okay.
Yep, good stuff.
All right,
Tom. Thanks for the call, man. Good luck today. All right, let's continue on with our reaches of the week, Professor. Why don't you start us off?
Okay. Well, you know what? Leonard Hankerson faces Pittsburgh on the road. Garcon is out. That's not a question. They're going to have to throw it a lot against this Pittsburgh defense. RG3 looks for him. He looked for him last week with 8 targets. I think he gets the same amount of targets or more this week. Fantastic reach play.
All right, great stuff. It's now time to get into our over-under segment there, Professor.
We had one more reach. You had you had Chris Givens as a reach.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Let's go. Patriots allow a lot of long ball, big play receptions, and the Rams have a big play artist in Chris Givens. History says this could be huge for Givens, and there is a very good chance he's still out on your waiver wire. Think about him if you need a potential home run. All right, now it's time to get into our over-under segment, Professor. I'm going to throw out a name and some yardage and touchdowns. You give me if it's going to be over or under.
We got 2 weeks without Matt, 2 weeks playing the over-under game. Matt has sent us another text from the boardwalk. He says, why, is all he asked us. So he's not having fun up there strapped to a light pole, but we'll get updates from him all the way up to the end of the show for you.
That's why they call him Fantasy Insider,
yes.
Matt Lowry. Okay, let me start off with Drew Brees, 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. He's going up against them.
I am taking the under. I like Denver's pass defense on this one. I do think the running game for New Orleans actually might produce a little bit more than expected.
All right, good stuff. Yeah, I do like Dumerville there, rushing the passer pretty good. How about Tony Romo, 260 yards passing, 3 touchdowns against the Giants?
Maybe I'm just a natural pessimist. I'm taking the under on this one, too. I do like the yardage. I think that's right about where he's going to end up. I'm going to say 2 touchdowns. Although with nobody healthy in the running game, maybe they do have to go throwing the ball, and maybe this is the week that Witten blows up.
Okay, how about Mike Vick, 275 total yards, 3 touchdowns against Atlanta?
Oh, that's just about what I would say for him. I'm going to take the over on that one, though. I do think that the Eagles come prepared for their bye weeks when they come back, and Atlanta's got some injuries on that defense.
Nice. All right, let's move over to the tight end position. I got Gronk, 88 yards, 1 touchdown against St. Louis.
Going the under on that. I think that St. Louis has got the linebackers to keep Gronk under control.
Wow, okay. Antonio Gates, 75 yards, 1 touchdown against Cleveland.
This one, I think I'm going to take the over on this one. I think Gates blows up. I think that the long ball catchers for the Chargers are kept under control in this game, so Gates ends up being the release.
All right, Brent Selleck, 80 yards, 1 touchdown versus Atlanta.
Oh. Wait, how many times this year has Brent Selleck had more than 80 yards? I'm taking the under on that one. I think he's only exceeded that twice.
All right, we'll move on to wide receiver. Reggie Wayne, 110 yards, 2 TDs versus Tennessee.
You know what? You got to take the under whenever you pick anybody to get 2 TDs. So I'll take the under, but he could do that very easily.
Okay. Mike Wallace, 119, 1 TD versus Washington's weak secondary.
I'm taking the over on that one. Nice. I had Wallace as one of my picks. I do think that he has a huge week, and that's a great play.
All right, here we go. Deshaun Jackson, 101 yards, 1 TD versus Atlanta.
You know what? I took the over on Mike Vick. I'm going to take the over on Deshaun here, too. I do think they get a couple of long ball touchdowns that we used to be known for here in Philly.
This is a great segment. This does allow us to talk about players we normally don't talk about. So
yeah,
this is great
this
stuff.
Is a lot of fun.
Let's get into the running backs. Jamal Charles, 135, 2 TDs versus the Oakland Raiders.
I love Jamal Charles. I love him in this game. We do worry about 8 in the box, 11 in the box. Heck, if they can sneak the coach onto the field, it'll be 12 in the box. Against Brady Quinn, who just can't scare anybody. 135 and 2 touchdowns. Man, that's hard to get on board with. I'm going to take the under on that, even though I could see him doing 160 and 3 touchdowns possibly, but got to go with the under.
He should be the whole show there.
Yeah, he should.
Alfred Morris, 80 yards, 1 TD versus Pittsburgh.
Anytime you got a running back going up against Pittsburgh or the Ravens, you would normally take the under. I'm going with the over on this one. I think the Pittsburgh defense is a little dinged up. I think that Washington gets a little production on the ground. Okay,
and finally we got LaShawn McCoy, buck 27 total yards, 1 TD versus Atlanta.
You know what? I'm going to be a homer and go over on LaShawn McCoy. That's a high yardage total, but you gave me the out. You say 127 total yards, right? So that's not just rushing.
Yeah,
I'll take the over there.
All right, that's great.
Absolutely.
All right. When we come back, we're going to keep the phone lines open at 609-573-3776. If you need any last-minute lineup help, we're here to help. We're also going to talk about our studs, duds, and sleepers. You're listening to the Pickle-Lillian Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show.
Don't let your fantasy issues become a reality. Fantasy Judgment is the premier dispute resolution service for all fantasy sports leagues. Led by attorney Michael Stein, the Supreme Court of Fantasy Judgment will resolve any and all issues or conflicts that arise in fantasy leagues. This includes disputed trades, collusion, abuse of power by league commissioners, lineup and roster errors, draft issues, score discrepancies, and interpretation of league rules. We alleviate the burden for league commissioners and allow everyone to focus on winning their leagues rather than arguing over disputes. Visit www.fantasyjudgment.com.
Fantasy football owners, it's draft time, and kickassfantasyfootball.com makes it easy.
How do we make it easy?
Projections from the experts, cheat sheets with your scoring rules.
What else?
Articles all season long, waiver wire picks, trade advice, everything you need to win a championship.
How about a free judgment from fantasyjudgment.com, a $15 value?
Now we're talking.
Subscribe today for just $9.95, and we'll throw in a complimentary cruise for 2 to the Bahamas.
Cruise to a championship with kickassfantasyfootball.com.
We're famous for a buffalo wing. The Piccalilli. When it comes to cooking wings, we're the king. The Piccalilli. Pull up a chair, grab a table, enjoy the atmosphere. Have something good to eat or have yourself around here. If you can't stop in, stop back. Great food, great drinks where everybody is a friend. If you can't stop in, stop back. The Piccalilli Inn.
It isn't fall without the famous Piccalilli Inn. Catch all of your favorite football action at the Piccalilli Inn. Check out the Pick's brand new menu featuring homemade buffalo chicken egg rolls, buffalo shrimp, scallops, and the tender Pick Burger. They go great with one of the Pick's ice-cold on-tap beers. Catch every football game at the Pick. Enjoy an awesome meal while you watch your favorite team. The Piccalilli Inn, a Jersey tradition since the 1920s. On Route 206 in Chemong. If you can't stop in, stop back.
The Piccalilli Inn.
Fantasy Football, the Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show. Every Sunday morning at 9 a.m. here on 97.3 ESPN. Join the Professor, the Commish, and Fantasy Insider Matt Lowry for the Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show. Got a question? Call us. Who should you start? Who should you trade? Who's great? And who just plain sucks? The Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show. On the web at kickassfantasyfootball.com. Yeah, kickassfantasyfootball.com. And every Sunday at 9 a.m.
I felt that one way up here.
Right here on 97.3 ESPN.
Welcome back to the Piccalilli and Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show. I want to open up the phone lines. If you need any help from the professor or myself with any last-minute lineup questions, give us a call at 609-573-ESPN. That's 609-573-3776. You can also check out our website at kickassfantasyfootball.com with getting your lineup set. Professor, we got Mark from Bridgeton on the line. Mark, welcome to the show. What's your question?
Good morning, guys.
Morning.
Good hearing from you again. Good talking to you again. Two things this morning. I got to pick one receiver.
Okay.
Steve Smith, Brandon Lloyd, or Gibson from the Rams.
You know what? That's a tough one with Lloyd playing in England today, and Steve Smith playing You're talking about the Steve Smith from the Panthers,
Carolina.
I assume. Yeah. So he's got
I want to put him. I want to put him in so bad because where I drafted him, he's killing me.
Yeah, and the Bears D is a hard week to
it's
to
tough
recommend.
to will
him.
a player to start him here.
But Gibson is a little bit more of a reach.
Because I know Lloyd's banged up a little bit.
Yeah,
he hasn't given me the production that I expected from him either. So I'm leaning toward Gibson. I know you can throw on New England a little bit.
Yeah,
that's probably where I'm going to go.
I think they're going to have to throw it a lot. Bradford, I think, has a great game, and Gibson's the target. So I like him. I think that's the way to go there.
Yeah, it is hard to say Brandon Gibson, who was probably undrafted in most leagues, over Steve Smith or Brandon Lloyd. But I am right there with you, Commish. I think that Gibson is the better play.
I feel the same way. I drafted Smith for a reason, but like I said, he's done nothing. So I think I'm going to go toward Gibson. So now my second question, and we have this weekly debate every week, but Eli or RG3? And one of these weeks, you guys are going to tell me go Eli, and I'm going to listen to you. But one of these weeks, you're going to tell me there's a defense out there that don't play RG3 against. I don't know if it's out there though.
Last week I would have said play Eli. He was one of my picks of the week. Dallas has some decent pass protection, so I can't really endorse Eli this week. As much as I hate RG3 going up against Pittsburgh, and I think both of these guys underperform. They're at the bottom half of starters this week. I do think that RG3 is still the better play.
Yeah, especially with the great running ability he has. And Pittsburgh's D isn't all to what it used to be, so you got to stay with RG3.
Yeah, I agree with you. So I think I'm going to listen to you this time. Last week.
Okay. All right, Mark. Thanks so much for the call, man. Good luck today. All right, let's go to Steve in Beechwood. Steve, welcome to the show. What's your question?
How you doing? I'm calling to see. I have Trent Richardson starting, but I have Pierre Garçon and Montario Hardesty on the bench. I'm curious if I should stick with Richardson or go with one of those other guys.
Well, Richardson, from what I understand, is going to be they're going to check him out in pregame warm-ups. He did go in last week for a couple plays, but as soon as he got hit, they did pull him, and Hardesty will end up carrying the load. But Garçon is absolutely out, so there's
Now this is a good one.
I'm sorry, I meant Pierre Thomas, not Garcon.
Oh, okay, okay.
Well, Pierre
Yeah,
Thomas is
I'm
actually
sorry.
Pierre Thomas is not a bad play this week against the Denver D. It's funny that you asked the Richardson Hardesty question because I have Richardson. The commissioner has Hardesty, and he made me a trade offer for one of my decent running or receivers this week, and I am rolling the dice with Richardson, mostly because I didn't want the commish pick in my pocket, but I do think that Richardson does play this game. He knows that he's got to toughen up. He's a little, he could have played that game last week if he was a little tougher. I think that he feels the shame a little and stays in that game this week.
But I will say this, Thomas did get into the end zone last week.
Yeah.
So not a bad play here if you're unsure about Trent Richardson. I'd watch that pregame warm-up real close.
Okay.
All right.
Yep.
Keep an eye on Richardson.
All right.
Yep. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks for the call. Let's go to Eugene. Don't burn the bacon. Eugene, welcome to the show,
How
buddy.
you guys doing?
Great, buddy. Great.
Roses are red. The fantasy help is true. If you don't listen to Kick-Ass 97.3, shame on you.
I love it. I love it, man.
We're getting some slam poetry on the
Great-
show. This is
great
fantastic.
sound bites, man. Thanks.
Between Deshaun Jackson and Randall Cobb, who you think I should throw in there?
Oh man, who's the third one? I'd get both of those in there.
The third one is Lance Moore.
I'd play Jackson and Cobb over Moore this week, and I like Moore. I had him in my plays of the week up top, but I think Deshaun has a great day. I think Cobb has a ridiculous day. So if I had to pick the odd man out, Moore would be the guy I'd bench. Commish?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Deshaun is slated to have a nice, large game today. Jordy Nelson pulled the hammy. Cobb's going to have whether he did or he didn't. Cobb was going to be used large in this game anyway. But I like both those guys.
What about Vernon Davis this week? Because he didn't do too good last week.
He did not. He had a rough week last week, but you got to get VD, Gene. You got to get him back in your lineup.
Yeah, I mean, they are on Monday Night Football this week, so he likes to shine on Monday night.
Okay, because I got Vernon Davis in, and I had Randall Cobb in over Deshaun Jackson, and everything else looks pretty good, because Wes Welker, I don't want to take him out.
No, you can't. He's been playing too strong. And Hernandez is out again this week, so
it's between Deshaun Jackson and Randall Cobb. I don't know which one to go with.
Okay, so you have to choose between those two guys, and you got Welker as the third. I would have to say Randall Cobb, just because of the lack of other options.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be used as a running back a few plays in this game as well, which could end up being huge. So, I think Cobb is the guy.
All right, thanks so much, guys. You helped me win last week, too.
Great,
okay,
man. Great stuff,
excellent.
Gene.
Stay dry, Gene.
Stay dry. All right, now it's time to get into our studs, duds, and sleeper picks there, Professor. Who do you got as your stud of the week?
Okay, well, I got a guy who is staying dry. Chicago's not in the line of this storm. Brandon Marshall excels when Jay Cutler has time to throw the ball. The Panthers don't bring any pressure. Guess what that means, folks? That's a recipe for stud numbers. Get Brandon Marshall in your lineup.
My stud of the week is going to have to be Demaryius Thomas versus the Saints, who give up the most fantasy points to wide receivers. An absolute must-start for you today.
Okay, my dud, unfortunately, my guy, Trent Richardson. He's banged up. He's got severely bruised ribs. He will probably get in this game, but he doesn't seem like he's tough enough to stay in it. So unless you're desperate, like I am, stay away.
My dud of the week is going to be the Beast, Marshawn Lynch. He plays Detroit this week to give up the fourth fewest points to running backs. Look for Lynch to eat more Skittles than gain yards today.
Okay, well, my sleeper is a player who's certainly on your waiver wire, Cecil Shorts. Yeah, he's on the Jaguars. Yeah, he's not Justin Blackmon or Lauren Robinson, and yeah, his name is Cecil. But he's a big play threat for non-PPR leagues. He gets these long balls, and let's be honest, Green Bay's pass defense not that great.
All right, I did a lot of research on this there, Professor. I'm going my sleeper, Danny Woodhead. He plays the Rams today, even though it's a running back by committee there. I like Woodhead to get a few carries, but more catches out of the backfield, maybe even sneak a touchdown in there.
You know what? With Brandon Bolden out, I do think that Woodhead slips into that role, and I do think that the Patriots rack up the rushing yardage today. So I like that play. I like it a lot, Kamish. That's a good one.
All right, and you can check out all our studs, duds, and sleepers, all our projections. Check out our website at kickassfantasyfootball.com. We'll help get your lineup set. You can put your league scoring rules in. It'll adjust the projections to how your league scores. So it's really great stuff. They're updated constantly to make sure you get the most accurate information each week.
Okay, right. We do have one more tweet, one more text message from Matt, lashed to a light pole up on the Ventnor Boardwalk, keeping us apprised of this storm. He says, "Bring it on, bleepity bleep bleep bleep." So, he's not really happy with his situation up there, but he has resigned himself to it. He will be back next week on the show, so we're looking forward to having Matt back if he survives.
He volunteered for that too, didn't he?
He did. You know that the streets in Longport start with 11th Street, and I told my kids that yesterday. I'm like, you know what happened to 1st through 10th? A big storm like this. So,
it's great stuff there, Professor. All right, we wish Fantasy Insider Matt Larry great luck. Hey, Professor, I got a question for you. It's Week 8 in fantasy. There's 6 games left till most of people's fantasy playoffs start, which usually start in about Week 14. What kind of moves should fantasy owners be making right now?
You know what? That is an article that I'm writing this week, so that's nice. This is exactly the right time to ask it. Well, one thing you do is you take a look at the defensive matchups. So if you have a team that's got that's got some of these teams that turn the ball over a lot in the last 3 weeks, Week 14, 15, 16. Try and either make a waiver pickup or a move where this defense is a throw-in. That's an easy 3 extra points for you in those fantasy weeks. The other thing to look at is what teams are facing the shutdown defenses. Now, it's a little hard to figure out with Ravens losing their players. Suddenly they go from looking like an unstoppable defense to looking very attractive as a defense, but you probably want to stay away from anybody playing the Cardinals. You want to stay away from anybody playing the Rams. Surprise, surprise. What happened where the NFC West is suddenly the smash-mouthiest division in the NFL with 3 of the top 7 or 8 defenses in the league with the 49ers, Rams, and Seahawks. So you want to stay away from the shutdown defenses. You want to get the good defenses. And you know what you want to do? You want to do what I did last week, which is watch the waiver wires. With all these bye weeks, we had 6 out last week, 4 teams out this week. Take a look at who people are dropping. I picked up Matt Bryant for $1, the kicker for the Falcons. He's a top 5 kicker.
He stole.
Absolute theft, and you'll see people drop a running back, a wide receiver. You need that depth. You need your team locked down by week 13. So that you can go into the playoffs 14 to 16, and most teams have a trade deadline and a waiver wire restriction. So you want your team all set and ready to go going into the playoffs. So
yeah, I agree with you, Professor. You make some great points there. I think if you're on a losing fantasy team right now, I think you need to shoot for the moon. You need to win the rest of the way. Take chances. Play to win. Don't get stuck with these players like the Garcons and that people have been holding on to it for value. Guess what? Time to move on. You got to make big moves. Don't hoard your players because they haven't worked. And if you have a winning team, then target players to improve that bench. So when you get into the playoffs, you're ready to go.
Yep. And if you are one of those winning teams, go start filling your bench up with those guys that are injured that are going to come back in weeks 12 and 13 because they'll end up producing for you like Chris Johnson last year.
All right, that's our show. Thanks for listening to the Pickle Kick-Ass Fantasy Football Show. I want to thank the Professor Steve Wynn and our kick-ass producer, Scott. I'm your host, the Commish, Henry Brick. And if you're not playing fantasy football, you're probably spending too much time watching the Weather Channel.
This week, yep.
See you next week right here on 97.3 ESPN.